What happens when two of music's biggest personalities clash on live television over something that was supposed to stay private? The answer will shock you. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation that had Meghan Trainor storming off set, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really triggered this meltdown. The morning started like any other taping of the Kelly Clarkson show. Meghan Trainor arrived at the studio looking confident in her signature retro-style outfit, ready to promote her latest album. The production team had briefed both hosts about keeping the conversation light and fun, focusing on Meghan's music, her family life, and her upcoming tour dates. What nobody expected was how quickly things would spiral out of control. Kelly greeted Meghan with her usual warm energy as they settled into the cozy interview setup. "Meghan, it's so great to have you back on the show. You look absolutely gorgeous." "Today? Thank you, Kelly. I'm excited to be here." "Your show always feels like home," Meghan replied, adjusting her position in the plush chair. The first few minutes went smoothly. They chatted about Meghan's new music, her creative process, and her experience as a mother. Kelly's questions were thoughtful and engaging, and Meghan seemed relaxed and happy to share personal anecdotes about balancing motherhood with her music career. "Your fans are absolutely obsessed with your authenticity," Kelly said, leaning forward slightly. "You've always been so real about your struggles with body image and self-acceptance. That vulnerability really connects with people." "It's important to me," Meghan nodded enthusiastically. "I want young girls to know that they don't have to be perfect. We're all human, we all have insecurities, and that's okay." But then Kelly's tone shifted almost imperceptibly. Her smile remained bright, but there was something sharper in her eyes. "Speaking of being real and authentic, I have to ask about something that's been circulating in the industry. There are whispers that your recent body-positive messaging might not align with some private conversations you've had about other artists." Meghan's expression changed instantly. The warm smile faded, replaced by confusion and a hint of defensiveness. "I'm sorry, what are you referring to exactly?" Kelly continued, her voice still maintaining that television-friendly tone, but her words became more pointed. "Well, sources close to several record labels have mentioned some rather harsh comments you allegedly made about other female artists and their appearance choices. Comments that seem to contradict your public persona of supporting all women." The studio audience, which had been quietly enjoying the conversation, began to sense the tension building. You could hear the subtle shift in the room's energy as Meghan straightened in her chair, her media-trained composure starting to crack. "Kelly, I think there's been some serious miscommunication here," Meghan said, her voice becoming firmer. "I don't know what sources you're talking about, but I would never tear down other women. That goes against everything I stand for." "I understand you might feel that way," Kelly replied, not backing down. "But when multiple people from different circles share similar stories, it raises questions about authenticity versus public image. Don't you think your fans deserve to know if there's a disconnect between your private opinions and your public messaging?" Meghan's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. The cameras continued rolling as she struggled to process what was happening. This wasn't the friendly interview she had prepared for. This felt like an ambush. "What exactly are you accusing me of, Kelly?" Meghan's voice rose slightly, though she was clearly trying to maintain some level of professionalism, because it sounds like you're suggesting I'm fake or hypocritical based on some anonymous gossip. The audience was now completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Kelly Clarkson, known for her supportive and nurturing interview style, was pushing harder than anyone had ever seen. Kelly's response was calculated and deliberate. "I'm not accusing you of anything, Meghan. I'm simply asking for clarification. In this industry, we all know how easy it is for private conversations to become public knowledge. Surely you can understand why fans might be concerned if your private opinions don't match your public advocacy." "This is unbelievable, Meghan," said, shaking her head in disbelief. "You're basing serious accusations about my character on unnamed sources and industry gossip. That's not journalism, Kelly. That's tabloid nonsense." The tension was now palpable throughout the studio. Crew members exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether they should continue filming or cut to commercial. This was clearly going far beyond the scope of a typical celebrity interview. Kelly pressed on, seemingly unfazed by Meghan's growing distress. "But don't you think transparency is important? Your entire brand is built on being relatable and honest. If there are inconsistencies between your public and private personas, shouldn't that be addressed? Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair sliding back with the force of her movement. You know what, Kelly? This interview is over. I came here to talk about my music and my message of self-love, not to defend myself against baseless rumors and gossip. Meghan, please sit down, Kelly said, her television smile still firmly in place. I think we're having an important conversation about authenticity in the entertainment industry. Important conversation? Meghan's voice was now clearly angry. You ambushed me on live television with unverified claims from anonymous sources. There's nothing important about that. That's just cruel. The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence as Meghan remained standing, her hands visibly shaking with anger. Kelly, however, seemed determined to push the conversation even further, despite the obvious distress of her guest. Meghan, I understand. You're upset, but running away from difficult questions isn't going to make them disappear, Kelly said, her tone now carrying a hint of condescension. Your fans look up to you. They deserve to know who you really are behind the cameras. That statement hit Meghan like a physical blow. Her eyes widened with disbelief as she processed what Kelly had just said. Running away? Are you serious right now? I'm not running away from anything. I'm refusing to participate in a character assassination disguised as an interview. The audience members were shifting uncomfortably in their seats, some pulling out their phones to capture what was clearly becoming a career-defining moment for both women. The producers in the control room were frantically discussing whether to cut to commercial, but the raw drama unfolding was unlike anything daytime television had ever seen. Kelly leaned back in her chair, maintaining her composed demeanor while clearly enjoying the chaos she had created. I think you're being a bit dramatic, Meghan. I'm simply doing my job as a host by asking the questions that everyone wants answers to. Everyone wants answers to. Meghan's voice cracked with emotion. Who is everyone? Kelly, your producers, the tabloid writers. Or are you just trying to create viral content at my expense? The accusation hung heavy in the air. Kelly's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered her composure. That's a very serious accusation to make about my intentions, Meghan. I've built my career on being authentic and honest with my guests and my audience. Have you, though? Meghan shot back, her media training completely abandoned as raw emotion took over. Because right now it feels like you've built your career on making people comfortable enough to trust you, and then using that trust against them when it serves your ratings. The cameras captured every micro-expression as Kelly's facade began to crack. For the first time since the interview began, she looked genuinely rattled by Meghan's words. I resent that implication. I've always treated my guests with respect and dignity. Respect and dignity. Meghan laughed bitterly. Kelly, you just accused me of being a fake advocate for women based on unnamed sources and industry gossip. If that's your definition of respect, then we have very different values. Kelly stood up now too, matching Meghan's energy as the confrontation escalated to a level nobody in the studio had ever witnessed. My values include holding public figures accountable for their actions and words, both public and private. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should examine why. The personal attack was unmistakable, and Meghan's response was swift and furious. Accountable for what, Kelly? For building a career on encouraging young women to love themselves. For speaking openly about my own struggles with body image and mental health. For trying to create positive change in an industry that thrives on tearing women down? But that's exactly my point, Kelly fired back, her own voice rising now. If you're going to position yourself as this champion of women's empowerment, then your private conversations and actions need to match that message. Otherwise, it's just marketing. The word marketing hit Meghan like a slap, her entire body. Language changed as she processed the depth of Kelly's attack on not just her actions, but her fundamental motivations and integrity. Marketing. Meghan's voice was now quiet but dangerous. You think my advocacy for young girls struggling with self-esteem issues is marketing? You think sharing my own painful experiences with body dysmorphia and anxiety is some kind of calculated business strategy? Kelly realized she had crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she doubled down on her position. I think in this industry, the line between authentic advocacy and brand building can become very blurred. And when private behavior contradicts public messaging, questions need to be asked. "What private behavior, Kelly?" Meghan demanded, her voice now strong and clear. "You keep making these vague accusations without providing any specific examples or credible sources. You're destroying my reputation on live television based on what exactly? Anonymous whispers and industry gossip." The studio audience was completely captivated by the exchange. This wasn't just a celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a masterclass in how personal attacks disguised as journalism could destroy someone's career and mental health in real time. Kelly's response revealed the calculated nature of her attack. The specifics aren't as important as the pattern of behavior they suggest. When multiple sources from different areas of the industry share similar concerns about an artist's private character versus their public persona, that creates a story worth exploring. A story worth exploring. Meghan's voice was filled with disgust. "Kelly, you just admitted that you don't even have specific allegations. You're building an entire attack on my character based on vague patterns and unnamed sources. That's not journalism, that's destruction for entertainment value." The confrontation had now reached a boiling point where both women were operating on pure emotion and adrenaline. Kelly, perhaps realizing that her carefully planned ambush was backfiring spectacularly, tried to regain control of the narrative. "Meghan, I think you're mischaracterizing what's happening here. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about authenticity in celebrity culture. Your defensive reaction is actually proving my point about the disconnect between image and reality." That psychological manipulation tactic was the final straw for Meghan. Her response was swift, clear, and devastating. "No. Kelly, my defensive reaction is proving that I'm a human being with feelings who's being attacked on live television by someone I trusted. The disconnect here isn't between my image and reality. The disconnect is between who you pretend to be as a host and who you actually are as a person." The silence that followed Meghan's devastating counterattack was deafening. Kelly's face went through a series of expressions: shock, anger, and finally a cold calculation as she realized her carefully constructed public image was crumbling. "In real time, that's a very personal attack," Meghan Kelly said, her voice now ice cold. "I think you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment about what's really happening here." "My emotions?" Meghan's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Kelly, you've spent the last 15 minutes systematically attacking my character, my integrity, and my motivations based on nothing but anonymous gossip, and you're telling me I'm too emotional?" The audience was completely transfixed. Many were recording on their phones, sensing they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. The crew members looked frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let the confrontation play out. Kelly's mask slipped completely as she responded with barely contained fury. "I'm doing my job as a journalist by asking hard questions. If you can't handle that level of scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be in the public eye making grand statements." About women's empowerment, journalist, Meghan's voice rose to a level that commanded the entire studio's attention. "Kelly, you're a daytime talk show host who built her career on being warm and supportive. Don't hide behind the journalist label when you're really just engaging in televised bullying for ratings." That accusation hit Kelly exactly where it hurt most. Her entire brand was built on being the supportive, nurturing host who created safe spaces for celebrities to share their stories. Being called a bully on her own show was devastating to everything she had worked to build. "I am not a bully," Kelly said through gritted teeth. "I'm holding you accountable for potential hypocrisy. In your public messaging, that's what responsible media figures do. Responsible media figures verify their sources before making accusations," Meghan fired back. "They provide specific examples instead of vague insinuations. They create safe environments for honest conversation instead of hostile interrogations." Designed to humiliate their guests, the confrontation had now evolved beyond a simple disagreement into a full-blown deconstruction of each other's professional integrity and personal character. Kelly, realizing she was losing control of the narrative, made one final desperate attempt to regain the upper hand. "The fact that you're this defensive about simple questions tells me and everyone watching that there might be more truth to these industry whispers than you're willing to admit," Kelly said with a cruel smile. That psychological manipulation tactic backfired spectacularly. Meghan's response was calm clear, and absolutely devastating in its precision. No, Kelly. What my reaction tells everyone watching is that I'm a human being who came here expecting to have a friendly conversation about my music, and instead walked into an ambush designed to destroy my reputation for your entertainment value. And what your behavior tells everyone is that you're willing to sacrifice another woman's mental health and career for a viral moment. The studio fell completely silent as the weight of Meghan's words settled over everyone present. She had just exposed the entire calculated nature of Kelly's attack, while simultaneously revealing the deeper ethical issues with using someone's trust as a weapon against them. Kelly's face went pale as she realized the full implications of what had just happened. She had not only failed to destroy Meghan's credibility, she had actually strengthened it while completely undermining her own reputation in the process. "Meghan, I think you're being unfair to my motivations," Kelly said weakly, her earlier confidence completely gone. "Unfair?" Meghan shook her head in disbelief. "Kelly, you just spent 20 minutes attacking my character based on anonymous sources questioning my integrity as an advocate for women, and suggesting that my personal struggles with body image and mental health are just marketing strategies, and I'm being unfair to your motivations." The audience began to murmur among themselves as they processed the full scope of what they had witnessed. This wasn't just a celebrity feud. This was a complete breakdown of trust between two public figures that revealed uncomfortable truths about how the entertainment industry operates. Meghan began gathering her belongings, her movements deliberate and dignified despite the emotional chaos of the previous 20 minutes. "I came here today to talk about music, self-love, and supporting young women who are struggling with the same issues I've faced. Instead, I've been subjected to a character assassination based on industry gossip and anonymous sources." Kelly made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "Meghan, please don't leave. I think we can work through this misunderstanding and have a productive conversation." Meghan paused and turned back to face Kelly directly, her response measured but final. "Kelly, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated attack that you planned and executed with full knowledge of what you were doing. The only reason you want me to stay now is because you realize how badly this has backfired on your own reputation." The cameras captured every detail as Meghan walked toward the exit, her head held high despite the emotional trauma she had just endured. The audience sat in stunned silence, many of them visibly uncomfortable with what they had witnessed. "For everyone watching this," Meghan said, turning back one final time to address the cameras directly, "this is exactly why so many artists are afraid to be vulnerable and authentic in public. Because the moment you share your real struggles, someone will try to use that vulnerability as a weapon against you." Kelly sat frozen in her chair, watching her carefully constructed career potentially crumble in real time as Meghan delivered her final statement. "I hope the young women who look up to both of us can see the difference between someone who supports other women even when it's difficult, and someone who tears them down for entertainment value," Meghan said before walking off the set, leaving Kelly alone with a studio full of uncomfortable silence and a live television audience that had just witnessed the complete destruction of two careers in the span of 30 minutes. The cameras continued rolling as Kelly sat motionless, realizing that her attempt to create viral content had instead created a career-ending moment that would define her legacy in ways she never intended. What do you think really motivated Kelly to turn what should have been a friendly interview into such a brutal confrontation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more shocking celebrity stories that reveal the truth behind the Hollywood facade.